Tony. It's more bad luck with the injuries, really. The news about Adji this morning, it's another huge blow, isn't it?
Listen, disappointing for Adji, really. I think for us, obviously, Dennis is still not ready. So like any football club, you have to get on with the injuries, part and parcel. It does feel a little bit as if we've been hit pretty hard. You know, I remember on the cusp of Ross getting fit, really coming to the end of the window in January, thinking we're going to have a brilliant second half of the season. You know, thinking everyone's going to be available and fit, and we were only going to get stronger. But that hasn't been the case, obviously, and. So yeah, there's a frustration attached to it. It's and we've had to go to the well with the same players most of the time. It's been difficult, but I think still huge credit to the group, huge credit to the players. I know we're going through a sticky spell at the moment, but we've got an opportunity to try and come out the other end, and you know we should look forward to these next 3 or 4 fixtures against teams in the top 6 to see where we are. And yet we're obviously a long way from being probably at our having selection issues, you know, with our strongest group, but we'll attack these games and be positive and see what comes of it.
Just a word on Adji. I mean, in many ways, kind of a breakthrough season for him. He can look back with pride on what he has done, can't he?
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, it was a great pick, I would suggest, from the recruitment department to pick Adji out of West Ham, and brings the versatility of being able to play centre half and athletic enough to play at full back, and you know, he's shown that he can join in and push up higher up the pitch and get into the back stick and being a threat to the opposition. So it's going to be a blow for us, but you know, as everyone comes along, we have to deal with it and keep going. So disappointed for him, really. Disappointed that he's had a good breakthrough season, and yet it looks as if his season's finished.
How's the week been? Obviously didn't go how anyone wanted last weekend. Have you just stuck to the same routine or done nothing different to try and sort of get the confidence back in?
No, we've sort of doubled down on what we feel we're good at, really. We've got to keep going. I don't think, you know, you have a result like you did last weekend, I don't think you throw everything in the bin, because there's so much good stuff that has gone on this season that we need to keep applying it, really, keep believing in what we do and how we play. And I hope we can go to Norwich, which is obviously a tough game. I think they're up into the top 6 now, Norwich, you know, a team that had been in the Premier League, and you would have expected them to be, as they have been over recent times. They've come down, they've bounced straight back, and but now they've pushed themselves into playoff positions, and so we know away from home it's a tough game, but one that we've faced these sort of games in the past, and we'll hopefully go and give a really good account of ourselves and make life difficult for them.
You touched upon it there, but this group of games coming up, I mean, they're games to be relished, really, aren't they?
Yeah, I think so. I think where we are, we need to test ourselves, really. I think Norwich away, it'll be a good football match, I'm sure. I think they're a good football team. They want to play with the ball. And it'll be a good test for us to see if we can compete at the level that they play at, and I'm sure we can. I think, you know, I said to them this morning, you know, I was watching some of the chances we created away at Fulham, and the energy and the drive and the number of bodies we got forward into the box in that particular game, and with total respect to Norwich, you know, Fulham were 6th or 7th in the Premier League when we played them, so we shouldn't really fear anybody who perceives themselves as a football team to go and compete with. So we will look forward to the challenge of that game. After that, 2 home games against Sheffield United and Luton, both in the top 4, I think, in the division. It's a good test for us. I know we're a bit under strength at the moment, but at home we should feel, with our crowd behind us, that we can create an environment where the teams know that they're in a real football match. So let's hope we can do that.
Obviously you are short of resources at the moment. The under-21s won through the week. Harry Gardner scored twice. It's easy to put 2 and 2 together, but Is that a route that you look at this point, or are those players playing at that age group level for a reason?
Yeah, I haven't seen the young man since he scored. I think he scored a hat-trick, didn't he? He had 2, but I think he scored a hat-trick. I'm not sure, but he's not been up training with us. No, they've had a day off. He's part of that development programme, really, that the club are trying to push hard, and hopefully there's some young talent coming through. We know there is in the likes of Rig and stuff in the years below, who played against Stoke under 21s, and they did very well. But you have to be careful of just keep throwing them in, and so we'll stick generally with the group that we've got, and it's a difficult time at the moment, because as I said, we're going back to the same players, and they have become vulnerable to injury and muscle fatigue and stresses and strains on their muscles and their bodies, really, and so we're trying to get that balance right of keeping the ones we've got fit and being able to put out a team that doesn't dip too far down the age groups.
I'll pass you to Lee. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just staying on that, Tony, I mean, you look at the list of players out, and is it just bad luck? Is it that time of the year, that time of the season where you just see more players get knocks?
Well, I think you have to break our injuries down one by one, really. Because of course we have to look at things like that. Are we pushing them too hard? Are they breaking down through muscle injuries? Are they game injuries? And I don't. Having done that and sat down with the group in the medical department, I don't think we are. We're trying to get the balance. They're playing at a level that they hadn't played at for 4 years, was it, in League One, and this is a much different league to League One. And some players have played, 30 odd games consecutively, and it's becomes really difficult. And yet, Ross Stewart, did he play every game in League One? I think he did, or just about he did. And he's picked, since I've been here, he's picked up 2 injuries on my second game, and the warm up against Middlesbrough, pulled his thigh muscle or tore his thigh muscle, and then at Fulham in the Cup only a few weeks ago or a month ago, he damaged his Achilles tendon, and they were in game and warm up for a game injuries. They weren't out on the grass here where we were pushing training too hard, and maybe their bodies are just finding that the extra intensity of playing at this level in this league and the demands on the body is becoming really difficult. I think without giving too much away, there's an incident in training today where a player came off, pretty important play for us, basically muscle injury really, and so it is frustrating. It's frustrating because we want to try and be competitive, and as the season's coming towards the crux, I know we've fallen away over the last few weeks, but if you can put back-to-back wins together, you're right in the mix and right in the shout. For it's not as if we have to make up a dozen points to think, that's very unlikely that anybody's going to make up a dozen points and sneak in unless you win 6 games on the bounce. It's and that's really hard to do in this league, but whilst we have to believe if we can win some back-to-back games somewhere down the line, whether it be in this clutch of games, or used to say, I think at Blackburn one year we fell away but won the last 4 games, and you think it can happen because different teams, sometimes they have nothing to play for at the end. Sometimes the anxiety of getting out of the bottom 3 or the anxiety of getting into the playoffs creates an issue in their team, and you can find a way to win games. And so I think we have to just keep going, keep doing what we believe in, and see where the season takes us. The frustration is the availability of the team to do that, and yet there's enough young players in the background in my mind who believe that they should be playing anyway and want to be in the team, and their opportunity is probably coming, and we'll keep at it and keep going.
You mentioned those teams above you that might start feeling the pressure. Obviously you've got a few of those coming up, Sheffield United, Luton, and starting with Norwich, but do you think because they generally play a bit more sort of expansive football and play football as someone said, that could actually help you as a team, you as a manager?
Well, I think it
would suit you. It would suit you more, basically.
Well, it gives you an opportunity to play your own game, really, and yet these teams are good football teams. Having watched Norwich and studied Norwich, they are a positional football team. They build up slowly, they put their players into attacking positions and they play forward into these attacking positions and ask questions of your defence, whether you're coming deep with him or tight with him, and if you go deep there's a runner generally running in the space that you leave, and so they're good teams, and you have to find a way, that's all. But I think your question was really about they are all in possession football teams really, and so when you have the ball you should be able to find the spaces and give them potential problems, as opposed to some teams in this league who are very out of possession teams and just stop the opposition and work off the back of that and find a way to score goals on transition. And so yeah, potentially if we play well on the days against these teams and give them problems and find a way to score goals, the game should be open. I think that's why we're saying there should be good games of football, and hopefully we can come out on top in these games.
You mentioned that a couple of times, finding a way to score goals, which has become more difficult, hasn't it, the last kind of 3 or 4 games. Does that concern you more and more as that spell goes on in terms of trying to get the ball in?
I think it's been since the day I walked into this club really. I think we've been trying to play with Ross Stewart scored 2 goals when I came against Rotherham and then got injured in the next game, and we've been played with Ellis Sims for a while as a main striker, but then Ellis he picked up an injury and then he went back to Everton, and so we young Geldat came in, who was really brought in to play alongside Ross Stewart really, and play around him and play off his touches and his physicality, but we've been trying to find a way over. Generally we do find a way. I think somebody said the other week Cardiff City was the last time we didn't score a goal. We've gone a lot of games by scoring in every game, and but sometimes the balance of how many men you have to play in front of the ball and attack potentially doesn't keep you as solid and defensively sound as you would want to be. So football's always about balance. Generally we've got it not too bad this season, and every now and then, as last weekend showed, we get the balance wrong and we can get punished.
Cheers,
thank you.
You mentioned there another potential injury today to a senior player. Could that be a serious one as well? Or?
No, I don't think so. I think it's a muscle injury, and I haven't spoken to the physio department yet, but yeah, it's never good when a player walks off mid-training, and yeah, it's part and parcel of the game. I need to be positive about that. Every team gets injuries, and sometimes you look at the results that come in on a match day and you think, goodness me, what happened there? Well, they might be without their 2 main central defenders, or they might have no strikers, or their main players missing. You generally, because you don't study the other teams until you're playing them, you don't realise that their results have dropped off because they're missing so many players. But I think for this group we just have to stay positive. We have to, as I've said all the season, but I don't want it to become really the main narrative, is that there's no pressure really. We just have to go and compete and try and play well and try and keep improving, and it just feels as if sometimes it's 1 step forward, 2 steps back, because how do you keep improving if you keep losing your better players and opportunity for other players, and yet maybe take a few games for them to get up to speed, and that's all. It just feels as if it's a bit stop-start, and yet I remember sitting here saying I was so looking forward to the second half of the season because we were going to be so much stronger and better, and yet we lost Corey and we lost Ross, and now we've lost Adji and we've already lost Embleton. It's it becomes more difficult, that's all. It doesn't become impossible. Hopefully different players will do a similar job and of the same standard, and we keep trying to be positive and give the performances on the pitch that the supporters have enjoyed so far this season, apart from the odd game. But yeah, we should look forward to these games. 11 games to go, is it? And we have to try and attack these games, and there will be some young players getting opportunities, and hopefully they can become the fans' favourites, because they do so well when the opportunities come.
I've seen Luke this week was saying, Luke and I was saying that had you been offered this position at the start of the season, look, you thought, what an excellent season you had. And yet after 3 defeats in a row where you were, there's that maybe temptation to be a little bit disappointed, but in your mind there's always been that perspective of what the bigger picture and what the ambition has been this season?
Yeah, I think my remit really was to try and develop the group, try and make sure that we weren't in a relegation dogfight. Really, every game is massive pressure and you're scrambling to get. You look at the bottom of the Premier League at the moment, and is it 7 or 8 teams within 3 points? It's not comfortable playing them sort of fixtures where every fixture you're hoping other teams get beat all the time. I think for us it's about our performance level each game, and generally it's been good in my opinion. I think we don't batter everybody 4-0. We're not a world beating team, but we are competing in a new league this year against some teams that have been in the Premier League. 3 of them were in the Premier League last year, and it's it's a tough league. It's a very attritional league. There's teams who are growing and getting stronger and getting better, and there's teams that'll be as somebody said to me, just about every team, up to 20 now, teams had changed their coach this year because of the expectation in this league of, Watford have done it again for the 2nd or 3rd time already this season. It's I think it's just the nature of the expectation, and the expectation our club was to make sure that we were competitive in every game, I think, and hopefully we've tried to be. And some games run away from you, and some games you get a fortunate win, and some games are really tight and you come out on top, or other games are really tight and you come out the wrong end of it. But I think we've generally been competitive for most of the season, and I think we should take the positives of that, and we aim to be competitive for the remainder of the season, whatever the team or whoever's unavailable or available, and just stay positive really. I think if I was going to send a message to the supporters, it would be to stick with the team, really believe in the team. It's we'd all love Ross and Corey and Embo to be an option, and Adji to be in there at left back competing with Dennis to see whether how strong our team could be. Every team gets injuries, and it's an opportunity for other players, but to I did apologise for the performance last week, and yet it was, there was no intention of it. Everybody still gives everything. It's we played against a team who play against the ball, and they were pretty good at it. Physical, strong, breaking away, playing with 3 strikers, and yet we, on a normal day we'd have been playing off Ross Stewart, and I repeat myself in the press conference after the game. On a normal day we'd have played longer over the top of their press, and yet if you've got 3 or 4 attacking players who are all 5'6", it's very difficult to play longer, and so we decided just to double down and try and see if we could get through this press, and but the next few games aren't necessarily teams who are set up like that. They're teams who will try and out-football you, so we'll have an opportunity to go to play these games against teams and see if we can come out on top in these games and pick up some points.
If you were to say finish top 10, top 12, top half this year, would the logical next step be aiming for a top 6 finish next season, or would that still be potentially too big a jump?
I think the logical progression is to keep improving the team, to make sure in the next windows we improve our squad really. I think the squad is at this moment as we sit here is getting really, really stretched. With 4 or 5 injuries, we seem pretty deep into the group of young players, and for me it would just be to improve the depth of the squad, keep going, keep trying to bring better footballers in if we can, and they've got to be pretty good if they're going to be better than the players that we've got, Stewart or Roberts or Pritchard or Dan Neil or Ballard. They've got to be pretty good footballers if they're coming in to be better than them. So, but that is the job, to keep improving the quality of the squad that you've got, and so that when the rainy days do come along and you pick up some knocks, the team doesn't feel any weaker. It feels it's just an opportunity for another really good player. That's where I see the progression is to keep deepening the squad.
I know we've talked about kind of your role with transfers and kind of used it maybe a step further away than where you've been in the past, but have you passed on your thoughts on what you think is needed or what you think your side could do with ahead of the summer, or is it still too early for those?
I think those meetings are coming actually in the next week or so. I think I will have an opinion, of course. I think, but I think the club will stick to the greater plan. But I think, listen, my job is to pass on my opinion, I think, and see whether it fits in. And I as I've always said, I like footballers. I like, as long as they're good human beings, I like working with young guys, and I don't mind personality, people questioning what you might do or why he isn't playing or why am I doing this. That's all right, it's great, it's healthy as far as I can see, that we become, because as I keep saying to them, this is their team, it's not my team, it's their team. They live and breathe it in the dressing room with their mates, and we have to keep trying to improve every day. So whether that's what's best for the team, is it in every day running and working and fighting and chasing every single day, or is it some days just rest, be with your family, come back re-energised and get ready to do it on this day. My experience tells me when to work, when to rest, when to train, when to go for a walk on the beach, when to play five-a-side, when to spend hours on the shape and organisation of the team and how we're going to play against this team. And that's just my experience, and I'm happy to bring my experience to any meetings that I'm asked to go into.
Last one from me. On Joe, I know we've talked a lot about it. Do you feel an element of sympathy for him? Because I know this is still a great opportunity for him to play every week for a team in the top half of the championship. But as you said there, I guess he's kind of played a role that you maybe didn't envisage for him when you first had those conversations when you first brought him in.
When I first met him, I talked about what his preferred role was. We talked about he's a 9.5 really, which means he's happy to play 10, he's happy to play wide, he's happy to play down the middle, and yet he wasn't. The intention in this league wasn't to put such a young guy as the main man down the middle. The role was to play off a centre forward really, because I feel when I've watched his best clips at Leeds when he's been on the pitch playing in the Premier League, he buzzes around the main guy and he dives into little spaces, and yet at the moment he's the main focal point of the defenders that he's playing against, and as opposed to the guy who they are marking, and yet the guy moves them out the way and Joe dives in and buries it in the bottom corner. It's at the moment he's the main focus of the defenders, and it's a different role for him, I think, and of these next 11 games, as I've said to him, he has to stay robust and fit and strong and try and rebuild some confidence, because I do think his confidence is a bit low at the moment, but he'll be given opportunity. I don't sit here at this moment and think, oh, I'll put him on the bench, protect him a little bit, see if he can come off the bench and liven the game up. I think the burden on him is that he has to generally start, because he's the only really striker that we have who is close to being a 9.5 or a 9.